Lovely. Okay. So the plan for today is to meet us and also the apprenticeship team and highlight key features of the course, explain about the criteria for entry and recruitment process, describe the whole apprenticeship process, and have any questions at the end. Okay. So we're just going to give you what we thought was the most important part, is to talk about how the course is going and what we've done in the course so far. So that'll be a combination of myself and re-explaining this part. Okay, so this is a team. So myself, Joy, who's mostly focusing at the moment on the master's programme. We have Catherine, who's our line manager and deputy head of department, who's physio. We also have Ra, who's the skills coach, who meets regularly with the apprentices and their line managers. We have Sarah Mathewson, who's our faculty administrator, who often answers the queries for the occupational therapy at Winchester email. Suzanne, who coordinates placements, as well as Sophie, who's the placement lead, and Susanna Rayner, who's one of our associate lecturers who's been teaching on leadership. Okay.
Oh, what have you got? Let's go from there. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, so we've been wanting to cultivate an ethos of learning through doing, so that the learners can experience understanding occupational therapy theory and practice through doing, rather than being sort of passive participants of lectures and seminars, which do have their place, but we've been trying to make it as interactive as possible. So this is a sample of what we've delivered so far, and some of the indicative content. So we've had a session of live actor interprofessional simulation with dietetics, as well as opportunities for nursing and physio simulation later on in the course. We've been exploring occupational forms. We've just had a gardening project, as well as there'll be other opportunities for craft, cooking and voice. There's a leadership modules focusing on teamwork and communication and occupational justice as the themes. So this is just some photographs of our last 3 weeks. The learners have been experiencing a garden project to be a springboard for teaching and learning about group dynamics and using groups in occupational therapy practice. So we're hoping to show you a video here, and I'm hoping it works. It's just a very brief video.
My name is Ree Carter, and I'm a lecturer in Occupational Therapy Apprenticeship Programme. So today we've got our first year students, our first cohort, coming here to connect with nature. We've actually been looking at sort of group dynamics and the theory behind that, but also looking at models of practice. So in occupational therapy, one of the key models is the Kawa River model. That is all about the flow of life. And within that, so many things impact us. You know, throughout life, there'll be some form of disruption in all of our lives. And we will always turn to rely on certain occupations to make us feel better. Within that, they're designing a gardening project that's aimed at improving health and well-being. But they have to first understand why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and how they then can influence that with other people, service users, themselves, their families, etc.
I am Rachel Bloodworth-Strong, and I'm the programme lead. We want to develop this throughout the course, the idea of using occupation therapeutically and being able to adapt occupation for different reasons, for different client groups. So it might be a group of people that are experiencing cancer or dementia or mental illness.
I'm Sam. I am studying occupational therapy, and I'm an occupational therapy apprentice for the Isle of Wight Council. My expectations for it have been like completely smashed. It's been so good. I can see how I'm changing the way I work already, from like a occupational therapy assistant to now becoming an occupational therapist apprentice. So I'm really enjoying it.
Okay. So go back to the slides.
I think if you just come on closer. There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So just to develop what I've said, we've been trying to implement learner-centered signature pedagogy, which is about learning about occupational therapy through experiencing occupation, and using case or problem-based learning to understand the theories and the concepts and some basic knowledge that we need, including anatomy and physiology. For example, learning about respiratory anatomy through singing and relaxation. We use aging suits to understand frailty, and carry out different activities in the university premises, sort of using an aging suit. Carry out lots of different activities within the university setting in a sort of simulated form to experience analysis and present it to each other through a kind of online forum, like a Padlet forum. And then we also gave them the sort of task of thinking about breakfast around the world in terms of the understanding about nutrition, how that relates to occupation. Okay,
this is sort of simulated. So leading on to how we do that. So we're using different forms of education to sort of do that. So, for example, we're partnered with a primary school that come in, and the students become the OTs in practice, where they're able to in a very safe environment teach students understand sensory information and be able to then process that in our learning environments. And it's super exciting, and it certainly is the sessions where our students really don't take that for granted, and they're able to put that within the workspace. We also, like we said about doing the gardening project, so we're also looking at other projects around the university. We're looking at painting, we're looking at building things, we're looking at adapting what we can do for sustainability. It's also really exciting. We're partnered with a Salisbury Hospital hand therapy department, where they will be coming in and delivering a lecture on hand therapy, but also making and doing. So they will, with their own sort of, so we get all the equipment for them, but they then deliver, the students will be able to make splints, which is super practical, and understand the complexities around hand therapy, and thus us coming to Salisbury Hospital to look at their simulation suites. So we also have an OT flat where it's like a real life doll's house, where they can also have simulation, be able to work within the different rooms to be able to create. What's really exciting is that we'll also be looking at cultural and diversity. We've got people from around the world that will be delivering a cooking session while talking about racial diversity. So we are keeping up with the development and the education of the time, really. So it's very exciting.
Okay. So Rachel,
another one of my inventions, I make an escape room. So obviously this is just a snapshot of the escape room, but it's a real life form. So we have an interactive escape room. They have a pack, and they have to work through the interactive board in teams to get through from somebody being admitted into hospital after a fall, and then getting them out. And they have to look at the real key areas, from diagnosis to understanding the anatomy and physiology of or the injury, understanding if equipment is needing, understanding writing SOAP notes. But we do that in a way that's very immersive. So within that, obviously it's a snapshot you go into, and you've got somebody talking. Margaret, in this case, talks through the issues, and they then interact with the board, which is super exciting. I won an award at the university for this, so it went down very well, and we're looking at developing a multidisciplinary one with other courses, with a shared vision where we have clinicians, students that have to work together to get somebody out of hospital that's super complex.
Okay, this is a sample of some of the ways we get feedback. We also get learners to present their work and be able to reflect on what they're doing. So this was learning about the lifespan. So we had the school-aged child. So they had to kind of understand about the different senses and go out into the university campus and also bring back images to sort of reflect on, different senses. And also we also have a lot of feedback quizzes,
We do, yeah.
recapping over everything,
Yes.
and revision. So just to try and make it as fun and interactive as possible.
Yeah.
So kind of
Yes.
that's the kind of like a musical, we have the music and the sound effects of that going on. Yeah. So that's what we've been having. And this is some of the feedback that we have from the evaluations. Someone said that it was one of my best lessons ever in education. So people have given very positive feedback, which we do appreciate.
Yeah.
And we do seek that feedback and we try and act on it to make improvements as well. So just to go into the course structure. So the course is a January only start. We don't have a September start. It's 2 days a week that you need to be out of work. One will be in university and the other day is a guided study day during term time. So the university day for the first years is a Thursday. And then in year 2, it become a Friday. And then in year 3, the other day, we haven't decided yet. So there's a guided study day. It's a compulsory to have that day. It's just not an optional day. But it is a flexible about when you can have that day. Some learners are choosing to have that day on the same day, e.g. Friday, but it's not compulsory to have it on that day. The holidays are planned in during the course to allow for apprentices to take their full annual leave from their employer. So, for example, in year 1, the annual leave is in August through into September. So this is a kind of sample of what the course looks like in term 1 and 2. So people would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the workplace, Thursday, Friday, Thursday university day, Friday guided study, for example. And just to say, when I'm going to explain about the apprenticeships, learners will be then translating their theory into their workplace and be able to include any new learning from their workplace. So what they do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they can incorporate that into what's called off-the-job learning hours, which they can log as a part of their apprenticeship standard. So this is just an overview of the kind of different year by year. So in level 4, it's the foundation year. So there are 4 modules. There are 4 modules in every year. They're 30 credit modules, so quite large compared to some courses. They might have 6 modules or 5 modules. We have larger modules with more credits. So the foundations is where you learn about anatomy, physiology, human development across the lifespan, occupational theory, and then you finish with a live examination. Then you have OT process and practice, which is all about assessment, intervention, evaluation. That's where we've been sort of deepening our understanding about groups and occupational forms. And we're going to include the hand therapy in there. We have a leadership module that runs from January to October. And then we have the placement, which is actually starting next week for our current. And when it says award, if you were to leave at the end of 1 year, you would gain a certificate of higher education. So in level 5, we have occupational therapy knowledge and skills, learning about lots of different conditions that affect people, leading to occupational disruption, for example, stroke or neurological conditions or developmental disorders or mental illness. And then we have research skills. We have currently further leadership, but we're making plans at the moment to change that. So we have a more occupational therapy knowledge and skills rather than leadership as a standalone module there. And then again, the second year placement, which will be running from April to June. Anyone who leaves after 2 years would gain a diploma of higher education. And then lastly, our third year, which is about consolidation, greater complexity. So we have OT as a complex intervention. Really, it's sort of developing the occupational therapy knowledge and practice sort of to a deeper level, more sort of practice-based module. The work-based project, that's actually more like a dissertation, but it's called a work-based project because our interpretation of that is sort of beyond the traditional interpretation of research. Then we got a further module looking at leadership, and then a further practice placement. It's a long placement, 12 weeks, from September to December, and that's leading to a full BSc occupational therapy degree. So this is the assessments in relation to that. So we have a mixture of practical exams, essays, presentations, and in the assessment part for the placement is done by the practice educator. They have to attain a certain grade. Again, sample of the assessments, so reports, practical assessments, research submissions, and then finally, more sort of practical based, a business case rather than a formal essay, conference style presentation, again, preparing people more for the workplace, a poster presentation, again, something that you might then carry forward to the rest of your career. Okay, so those are the assessments. So hopefully we gave you a bit of a sample of how we like to deliver the course. We do have traditional lectures and seminars on campus, but also online. The guided study on your study day, you'll be expected to sort of spend a full 7.5 hours a working day learning and studying in a kind of structured way. So we give everyone quite clear guidance about what to study and how long that should take. And so that might be reading articles, looking at videos, thinking creatively, using a model to design an intervention, for example, or write a structured reflection. We also have one-to-one practical tutorials, and we have workshops using equipment, for example, or hand therapy, and simulation, which is with actors, and role play to kind of develop our communication skills. Guided independent study, as I said. We also have the kind of important concept of translating what you learn in the workplace through practice, being supported by the work-based mentors who are the OTs supporting people. And then we also have some external visits and guest lecturers planned in.
And that's including, for example, we've got Lauren Walker, who's very big in the RCOT world and very hot on education. I know she came to Salisbury Hospital to talk about some of the issues, what OT is leaving the profession. And, she's coming in, she's doing a big talk for our students about leadership, but we're also looking the way we're debriefing students after placement. We've got a psychotherapist that is coming in to explore debriefing through the arts, being able to incorporate a different way of learning, because what we find we're moving away from PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint. So it has to be hands-on, it has to be creative, and it's not necessarily drawing a picture, it's about being creative in a very different way, practical skills that they can take on. And an example of that, we've just run loads of mini groups of developing group interventions this morning through different forms. So it's a very exciting time to be delivering in today's sort of day and age in occupational therapy.
Yeah, Reece planned us in the leadership module, and firstly an actual leadership conference with different speakers, haven't you? Yeah. So the theory behind this is to use a kind of spiral curriculum. In other words, revisiting concepts and weaving them throughout the course with increasing depth and complexity. Okay. So in terms of our placements or practice-based learning, according to the World Federation of OTs, everyone has to complete 1,000 hours in order to qualify. So obviously that's something that we've built into the course. The placements are arranged through mutual agreements with a consortium of employers, so effectively swaps with somebody else's workplace or them finding a placement offer within their work environment, and either yourself going into your own employers sort of within your own organisation, or maybe going to another organisation. So it's arranged as a kind of mutual, simultaneous, non-simultaneous, reciprocal agreements, so that every learner has a range of opportunities: local authority, acute hospital, mental health, physical health and disability, learning disability, or voluntary sector. So these are the placement blocks. So roughly 8 weeks, roughly 10 weeks, roughly 12 weeks. So that's the outline for that. Placements are designed to be full-time. However, if those are on part-time hours, and if you're an apprentice, you have to be on 30 hours at least. But if you can't achieve full-time hours, you can't stretch to that in terms of your employer being able to increase your contract and be paid, because obviously all of the apprenticeship hours have to be in paid working hours. There is some flexibility in terms of extending placement length. We are rating this to be formally approved in terms of a change for our programme. But if anyone is coming onto the programme and is in this situation, we have encouraged them to talk to us at the beginning for how we can make that work.
Yeah.
But the current position, and that's advertised on our website, is that placements are designed to be full-time. And it makes it slightly easier if people can at least be on full-time, even if they're not on full-time in the rest of the course. But as I said, the option has been there for the current people on the course, and we hope it will be there formally for others in future. Okay, so the university, Winchester University, has an ethos of giving support for learners and widening participation and being very inclusive of a university. So we were on an induction for staff yesterday, and we were kind of hearing about the ethos of the university having been developed from a college, a teacher training college for more disadvantaged people in this area. So that's quite interesting. That's
1840.
Yes, that's how the university rose. That was interesting. So in terms of support, apprentices are like every other student at this university, although they are often people in the workplace and maybe mature students. They come in once a week. They are still able to access the wide range of university services and facilities that are there to support all students. So there's a support and success team at the University of Winchester. You can read all about that on our website. So that includes academic skills support. So they offer workshops which we implement in the programme, as well as one-to-one sessions helping people with building up their confidence and ability in writing academically, researching and referencing. We've got wellbeing services, including mental health support, counselling and other self-care resources. And we have the disability and inclusion team offering one-to-one advice. They create learning agreements for people to have reasonable adjustments for learning, such as extra time.
And it's also worth noting, because our apprentices generally have been out of education for a very long time, you know, we've got many students that have come in and said, well, I haven't got a diagnosis of anything, but I'm pretty sure I've probably got dyslexia. Our disability and inclusion team have been absolutely fantastic about putting learning agreements without that and supporting them in being successful. So even recently on their first OSCE, their first practical examination, many of them had extra time, which allowed them more time to think and process. So it's designed to help people succeed.
Right. Okay. So there's also the apprentice skills coach from the University of Winchester who meets with the employer and the apprentice for regular reviews to track their achievement of the apprenticeship standard. Let's see, the occupational therapy course team. Each person is assigned a personal tutor. We have group one-to-one meetings. There's a really helpful IT help desk. They can help with any technical issues. Are really helpful with some people, particularly at the beginning, with getting all sorted when they perhaps haven't done that for a while. Also, well as excellent library services with online journals, ebooks, study spaces, and a very helpful research assistant using AI that's kind of known to be trustworthy, as well as some other training sessions that are available.
Yeah.
We offer some work-based mentor training for the occupational therapists that are supporting our apprentices, and practice educator training as well. And we've run some sessions already. As I said, the tripartite reviews with the skills coach, as well as quarterly employer university forum consortium meetings to arrange the placements and to discuss how the course is progressing. So, on to the entry requirements and the recruitment process. This is available to members of the public on our website. So recruitment is employer-led. The employer is responsible for recruiting, supporting the apprentice and choosing the apprentice. We are open to be consulted about suitability, obviously, and we carry out as an organisation the check necessary kind of ultimate screening, but the employer needs to also carry out necessary checks and decisions in terms of who they feel is suitable for the apprenticeship. And that might be through an initial set of interviews, choosing a select number of people, And then they share the names and details using an expression of interest form with our OT team, of the emails there, and the apprenticeship team. So I'll just explain. So then we have an interview with myself and somebody from the organisation. Those people will have been, pre-selected by the employer, and then we will we'll look at how they perform in what's called a skills scan, where they have to kind of rate themselves against the apprenticeship standards. And then they also take an initial maths and English skills test, and to assess, their performance. And they also have to have further checks in terms of occupational health clearance and mandatory training and DBS checks before a final offer is made. I just actually want to say about the maths and English. The maths and English is no longer mandatory for apprentices over the age of 19. So whilst this is something that we would say is desirable and it's still on our entry criteria, if people are able to demonstrate that they're able to have study at level 3, they're able to converse in an articulate way in English during the interview, they perform well in the maths and English assessment, and their employer is able to support them and give a reference to say that they feel that the apprentice would be suitable for the course and be able to manage level 4, 5 and 6 study, then we would consider that person regardless of whether they could produce a certificate in level 3 maths and English. So just to kind of take it a step back a bit in a way to explain a bit about what an apprenticeship actually is, and after this I will be handing over to Dom from the apprenticeship team. So what is a degree apprenticeship? Essentially, it's an alternative entry route into the OT profession where learners can achieve a full bachelor's degree. It's a partnership between education providers or universities who are the degree awarding bodies and the employers, and it's paid for by an employer levy, essentially government funded, like a big pot where employers pay into, and the money comes from that rather than people paying their own fees. And it's also approved by the Health and Care Professions Council, the HCPC, and credited by the Royal College of OTs. So it's a proper degree, but it's a different funding stream. It's essentially a partnership between the apprentice themselves, the university, and their employer or the workplace mentor. An apprentice is a person with a job. It's an apprenticeship is essentially a job. It's not just being a person on course. So it's a job with a formal off-the-job training program. As a part of the apprenticeship, the apprentice has to log every month the number of hours that they are acquiring off-the-job learning hours. Off-the-job is a slightly counterintuitive term because it actually can be what you're learning on the job, as long as it's new learning that you're bringing in from and applying within the workplace. But it's not your normal job and not your normal work. I'll just explain a bit more. Any new learning that apprentices do, either in their working hours or at university or on their placement. It represents 20% of all their paid working hours. Apprentices must be employed for at least 30 hours a week. So it's just jumping slightly. So those are the basics. It's essentially have to log at least 29 hours per month, but in reality, they're logging a lot more than that because they have their you've got your day at university, you've got your day guided study. If you're on placement, you're on placement full time, plus any extra learning, things like some supervision that you have or a special new learning event, something that you learned a new skill, that will be off the job as well.
And it's worth noting, for example, I mean, we've done a lot on activity analysis. I mean, that would count as a new learning essentially, because it's not something they would normally do. So, for example, if they're designing a group within the workplace and they're taking that new learning of understanding what activity analysis is, and then taking that into their job, that would be considered new learning.
Okay, so just talk a bit about if there's anyone in the room who is planning to be a work-based mentor. So the role is a designated role by the Royal College of OTs, and this is just a quote from their learning and development standards: an experienced, appropriately qualified OT who delivers or oversees a learning strategy in the workplace which results in the development of skills, knowledge and professional conduct. So it's a specific role that's not actually there in all degree apprenticeships, particularly there for OT. you have to be supported by an OT. So the mentor would typically meet the apprentice skills coach for reviews and at the endpoint for assessment, support the learner ongoing to, not learner, learner, to attain any OTJ hours, new learning related to the knowledge, skills and behaviours of the apprenticeship. And the learners then encouraged also to share what they're learning at the university with their work-based mentor. So this is just the different responsibilities. Obviously, the employer and university have certain responsibilities, such as providing reasonable adjustments, obviously provide a safe, effective learning environment, responding to well-being, offering placements, etc., offering all the learning opportunities. The learner still has that responsibility for their own time management, being dedicated, hardworking, recognising when they're experiencing stress and fatigue, seeking support early, making use of everything that's there for them, and developing reflective practice. So it's a partnership. Just again a bit about off the job on a practical level, kind of off the job learning are all of these things, e.g. discussing your complex cases, what you do in university, shadowing another department, but doesn't include normal daily tasks like mandatory training. Okay, so it must be planned, documented and relevant to the apprenticeship and in your paid work time. There's a government outlined standard for occupational therapy degree apprenticeships. It's the same for all courses that are in a degree apprenticeships, with a certain number of knowledge, skills and behaviours that all have a number. So you've got K2, the importance of safeguarding signs of abuse and relevance, safeguarding and skills and behaviours example. So the apprentices become really familiar with this whole bank of KSBs, and they very easily able to kind of relate what they're doing and be able to log a certain number of knowledge, skills and behaviours every month to track their hours and attainment of the knowledge, skills and behaviours. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so I think we've really come to the end of that, but I'm going to hand over now to Dom. Dom, if you've got any, we're going to share some slides, is that right?
I have. Can someone give me access to share if possible?
Yeah.
Just give me 1 second, Dom, I'll be able to.
While waiting, does anybody have any burning questions to ask?
We just had some questions around placement, but I don't know if now's the right time to talk about that or whether that might crop up later.
We can do it at the end. Yeah. So Dom, how are you doing? Have you got a
You
slide?
should be a presenter now, Dom.
Great.
Yeah,
okay, we'll do this. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
Get the presentation ready. Assume everyone can see my screen. Yeah. So hi, I'm Dominic Northcott. I'm the Apprenticeship Data Quality Manager here at the University of Winchester. I'm just here to talk about just some new funding rules changes that are coming in from September, and to talk a little bit about incentive payments. And then I've been asked, as my colleague is on holiday, to see if I can just talk about the onboarding process, just to give you a quick run through of how that works. So some of the policy updates that are coming in from 2026 to 2027, so this will be from August the 1st. First one is a training plan. So our training plans we do via a platform called Aptum once the apprentices are boarded. This just sets out their time on programme for their 2, 3, 4 years, however long they are. So at the moment, at the beginning, the line manager, apprentice and someone from the university will sign that, and then that's done. What will happen now is that from August, once an apprentice gets to their end of programme, they are now expected to have that signed off again. We are hopeful that that will just be a little statement within the endpoint assessment gateway when the apprentices get there, that there'll be a little bit of section in there where we would just put some information to say you're happy that what was said in the training plan was actually delivered. So that's just something that's coming in for next year. Another one at the moment is that we do have examples of where an apprentice is on a level 6 standard but could get a level 7 qualification. So at the moment, our social work program here, we have apprentices who will end up with a level 6 standard, but they can get an MA awarded by the university. The government seems to be trying to maybe stop that, which could have implications further on some of our other programs that we could have gone down the route of looking at MAs as part of the standard. We are waiting to hear what is going on. I know UVAC, the University Vocational Academic Council, are in discussions with the Department for Work and Pensions, the DFE, to look at all these sorts of things. So we are waiting for an outcome from that, but clearly that might have implications on any of our other programs that thought they might go down that route as well. The reservation of funds for non-levy employers, so any of our employers who do not pay the levy, so can go out and reserve it. For next year, all reservations need to be reserved by the time the program starts. So in the past, we've had an apprentice start in September and the employer reserved the fund in October. That is potentially being stopped for this year, and it's only by exception if it was a very late last minute and transfer because an employer had gone bust somewhere else. So we will work with any sort of non-levy employees close to the time to make sure that any funding is reserved in advance of the apprentice starting. The next one is about levy payer co-investment. So at the moment, where a levy paying organisation might run out of funds during 1 month, the government will put 95% of the contribution to that, and we would invoice the employer directly for a 5% contribution for that month. From August the 1st this year, that is changing now, that any levy paying organisation who have run out of funds for that month, they are now going to be charged 25%. So we would then liaise with the employer to get that 25% contribution for that month. It doesn't happen very often, but it's just to sort of make employers aware. The government used to top up 10% to the digital account. That's going to end from July 31st this year. And also the timescale for using unused levies decreasing from August 2026 to 12 months instead of 24 months. For non-levy co-investments, any apprentice aged 16 to 24 for an SME, and they will now pay 0% for the apprentice. The government will pay the fee for that, and for anyone aged 25 plus, it will be 5%. So that's good news for trying to get SMEs to, employ younger people. And these are some of the incentive payments that are available. So at the moment, the DFE will pay £1,000 to additional payment for hiring apprentices. This is only for an apprentice who is aged 16 to 18 or 19 to 24 with an educational healthcare plan or care leaver. They will pay us and then we pay the organisation, and this is paid in 2 equal instalments around day 90 and then 1 year after the apprenticeship started. If the apprentice was to leave between the 2 instalments, the second payment wouldn't be paid to you. So just to sort of make you aware. This is a new one that's coming in from October. We are waiting for confirmation this is going ahead, but it's for small and medium employers, hiring an incentive from October 26 for anyone aged 16 to 24 that they hire who undertakes an apprenticeship. Again, they'll be paid in 2 equal instalments around day 90 and 1 year after the apprenticeship started. And again, if the apprentice leaves in between the 2 payments, the second payment will not be made. And this is another new one, that a £3,000 new universal credit hiring incentive, and this is for any 18 to 24-year-old apprentice if an apprentice has been on universal credit for over 6 months. However, this is paid directly by the employers, by the Department for Work and Pension. We don't get involved in this. So it's just some of the incentive payments that are available out there, just to make you aware. I am just going to quickly go through the onboarding process just to make you aware of sort of what the process is once you've asked an apprentice to, expressions of interest to Rachel and everyone. So at the moment, you would send an expression of interest form. We would then use our apps and platform, and this is where an online platform that we use where they will log their off-the-job hours, their training plans will be signed on, their apprenticeship agreements on there. So we will activate their account to the apprentice and line manager. The apprentice will be asked to submit all their qualifications, confirm their highest qualification, and complete their skills radar. Which, Rachel, have you gone through what the skills radar is briefly?
So you track where you are in terms of knowledge, skills, and behaviours in relation to the apprenticeship standard.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just I don't want to go through it again.
You won't. But the idea is that you mustn't be too brilliant on it, otherwise you're not eligible for funding. So you have to show that you've going to still have new learning to acquire throughout the course. So if you tick 5 out of 5 for everything, then you're you're not going to be eligible for the funding. So you have to sort of demonstrate that you have some way to go in terms of your learning.
And we can do it. So if an apprentice thought they were 5 and after the skills, after the meeting with Rachel or another member of the team, we can sort of put a note in to say, after discussion with the line manager and the apprentice, they do agree that they're actually at 3 because this is the sort of learning that will take place. So, but we do ask apprentices sort of just to look on the more of the negative side than the positive side, but it's not the end of the world if they think they're at 5, because discussions could be had about how, why they think that. So the skills radar is a self-assessment against the apprenticeship standard. It's all about the knowledge, skills and behaviours, as Rachel just mentioned. To be eligible for an apprenticeship, there needs to be a requirement for new learning. And it's likely that the applicant may not have experienced the majority of the areas. So these are sort of the ratings that we ask apprentices sort of to self-assess themselves against. Like I said, if they are putting 5s down, potentially that funding shouldn't be eligible for those bits. But again, that's where the discussions had around the initial needs assessment and the skills radar, and they have with the program leader. So on the first phase, still the admissions will check the qualification evidence. If there's issues, so for example, it could be that the apprentice has got GCSEs in their maiden name, have been married, so we would need to get their marriage certificate on file so we can just match the qualifications that way. As I said, the employer and program leader will review the skills scan. They will meet the applicant as part of their eligibility. And then the employer will complete Optum onboarding phase 1. So what we normally do is after the review's taken place, we would just ask the representative from that meeting to go in and just confirm that does the apprentice need level 2 maths and English from the employer's point of view? Are they happy that that apprentice is undertaking the apprenticeship? So and we would send information about how the line manager completes that to them directly, so there's no problems there. The program leader will complete the onboarding phase to review confirm that the apprenticeship is appropriate, and then if there's any RPL that needs to be undertaken, the program leader will go through that and would make the employer aware of what changes need to be made to sort of funding and things like that, but we would work with the program leader for that. So once the phase 1 is completed, the apprenticeship will move on to complete onboarding in phase 2. And this is where they'll just be asked to send in their DBS number and occupational health certificate. One of the things we do get all apprentices to do is something called a cognitive assessment. And this will pick up on whether there are any learning disabilities that they might not be aware that they have, sort of dyslexia or any support they need. And they'll do the assessment, and then we will supply that information to our disability team, who will then make contact with the apprentice to see what support they need when they're on program. So it's to make sure that they are getting the right level of support and not getting to the end of year 1 and realizing they're struggling and there could have been a reason behind it. We are required to test, even though an apprentice might have GCSE maths and English or functional skills, we are required to test all apprentices on their working level of English and maths. They'll be required to do an assessment on English and maths, and then they'll be required to complete a University of Winchester application form, because unfortunately our system and the university system do not talk to each other. So they will do some of the onboarding in Optum, and they'll be just required to complete a University of Winchester application form, but all of this will be communicated to the apprentices when they're onboarding. We will just get the employer to complete a final review, and then we will complete a review just to confirm that the apprentice is working 50% of the time in England and things like that. And then once everyone is happy, our admissions team will send an offer to the apprentice to confirm a place. All being well, the apprentice accepts the offer, and then our admissions team will send an online enrolment link to the apprentice. They will then complete online enrolment. Once they're on program, the apprentice and employer will sign the apprenticeship agreement and training plan. This is all done in Optum. All they need to do is click a button and the digital signature is prepared for them, and they sign the document that way. It's a live document, so if anything changes happen, for example, an apprentice goes on a break in learning or there's a delay, we will update the training plan. So it is a live document. And then once the apprentice and the line manager has signed it, the university will sign the training plan. And then, like I say, if any changes happen, we will just go through it all. And once the line manager and the apprentice is on board, the line manager can view how the apprentice is doing. So they will sort of see how their off the job is going on, where they are on program. So this is just sort of a snapshot of what they are. And we're more than happy to go and have a meeting with line manager online to actually, go through this information with them so they can sort of help support their apprentice to the best they can when they're on program. And that's it. Is there any questions for me? So it was a bit of a fast running one.
Please do pop your hands up if you have any questions for either Dom or myself or Ree.
I'll stop the recording at this stage so that everybody can ask their questions without being recorded.